Today's session is about, I'm going to talk a little bit about, um, well, it's really about making plans for 2023, but I'll take you through the what we're going to be talking about now. So we're a bullion dealer. I sometimes forget to tell people what I do, and have been asked at the end of a session, so where can I go and buy gold and silver? Well, we're an online bullion dealer, so whenever you're taking information from a source, it's good to know who they are. We try our best to be impartial, and I try and approach this part of what I do it's like giving advice to friends. Really, we're not giving advice as such, but it's about sharing our knowledge, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I can tell you what I see and what I think might happen, and I can tell you what's happened in the past. I've been in this business now for nearly 14 years, so I've heard all the stories, and I've seen the fluctuations in the market in the light of those stories. So I tend to be generally quite skeptical, but what's going on out there does influence what happens with gold and silver prices. And there are other factors as well that come into play, and I'll go into some of these as we carry on. We're very proud of our FIFA reviews, and we've got new awards are due to come out next week, so we're really hopeful that we'll be getting the Platinum Award again. There's no reason why we shouldn't, and thanks to everybody who completes reviews. It really helps us know that what kind of service, how our service is received. So thank you to everyone who regularly helps with that. We really appreciate it. And it's, I think when you're dealing with online businesses as a consumer, it's really helpful to know what you can expect. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is generally what we're going to cover. I'm just going to go over a few things that happened in 2022, something about some insights into what's been selling well, and what people are buying, and also what might become more relevant as we move into 2020 onwards. And then I'm going to go into a bit of psychology. So, and this is all connected with how we make decisions about spending money. Then I'm going to look at how we measure wealth and how we look at money. So finding money to invest, how you might organise your finances in a better way. And I apologise to anyone who thinks this is a bit too basic, but we do have a very broad audience, and of all ages, and some of us who are more mature have learnt things the harder way. So and if anyone's got their own insights they'd like to share with others, we'd really love to hear that too. And that I know that on this call there are some really great presenters too, and people who are much better than I am at putting this sort of thing together, and do a lot more research than I do as well into all the news stories that are going on. And I'm always really interested to hear what other people have to say. I'm not sitting here as an expert, and I wouldn't want you to think of me as such. I know my business, I know bullion, I know what's sells, and I know how to, I know my way around what's the tax things. And if you're looking to buy something, I will always talk you through and try and tailor what I say to you according to your situation. But I always encourage people to do their own research. We'll be looking at setting goals and then balancing risk in your portfolio, and some of the things that you might have to think about if you're looking at switching from one asset to another. Okay, so right, this is what we sold in 2022. So in terms of value, 79% was gold and 18% was silver, and a very small percentage is made up of platinum and palladium. I think the figures here are 1.6% for platinum and 1.4% for palladium. In terms of ounces, very different. Not really surprising because silver is so much cheaper per ounce than gold. 92% of the ounces we sold were silver and 7.5% were gold, and less than 0.5% for platinum and palladium, 0.27 and 0.14. We do also sell rhodium, but it's a rarity. Rhodium has got an incredibly large spread on it, and although you can make lots of money, it is very risky and a big gamble. So it's, you know, if you want rhodium, you know, we can get it for you. We can't always sell it. We can't always buy it back though. So
apologies. Can I just stop for 1 second? I really apologise for stopping you in mid-flow.
No, that's fine.
I was just very intrigued by the fact that you mentioned rhodium, and we are talking about rhodium, which actually creates the plating from turning obviously yellow gold to white gold. Am I right?
Yes, it's also used in catalytic converters, and it's far more what's the word? It's far more effective than some of the other platinum group metals. So it's a very valuable metal, but the investment market is a very thin market. So
because there's a shortage at the moment with a lot of jewelers being able to get hold of actual rhodium. Sorry, firstly, apologies for the rest of the group. I think I'm probably holding things up, so maybe I should wait for this question to the end. When
yeah, we'll talk a bit about it at the end, but I'm quite happy to be interrupted sometimes.
Oh, right.
Not too often. It breaks it up for me a bit, so I don't mind, honestly. And if someone does have a burning question and you feel like you need to know the answer because it helps you make sense of the rest of what I'm saying, please feel free to interrupt me.
Because I just noticed I've been travelling quite extensively, and I've noticed even when I went over to America, it's one of the things they had said over in there that they were struggling to get hold of rhodium to actually do the actual obviously the conversion or whatever to turn from, obviously everything is yellow gold, but to actually the rhodium to actually infuse it to make it into white gold, which I found quite interesting. But I was kind of scratching my head, why is no one buying it as a precious metal as such, if you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you touched upon that, I just perked up. Well, okay.
I'll make a note and we'll cover that. We'll talk a bit about rhodium at the end.
I'm going back to mute. Apologies, everyone.
That's okay.
People could also put questions in the chat as well, and we can always come back to them later on as well. That might be an option, so you don't forget your question. Yeah,
that's a handy tip. So, okay. And also, you might find there are people who've got the same questions. And talking about the chat, one of the sessions that I had, there were lots of people asking questions and answering questions in the chat for each other. So that was really helpful. So feel free to do that too. You don't only need to address questions to me, you can address questions to the whole group. I won't be looking at the chat probably until the end though. But I might do. We'll see how we go. Okay, right. I'll carry on. So a money mindset. When I was growing up, the messages I received about money was quite mixed and quite confusing. I went to a state school to start off with, we lived in a flat in a big house that belonged to my grandmother, and we never really, my dad was, my parents were probably like a lot of us, they'd been through the war as children, and my dad was his favorite hobby was diving through skips and finding you know, useful things that might be handy. He was a builder as well, so he was a bit of a womble, I suppose, if you remember the wombles. And so we lived in this big house. We were cash poor and asset rich, really, as best way to describe it. My friends who I was at school with went on fancy holidays, and we used to go camping in Wales, usually in the rain. So I never really grew up thinking that money was something that it wasn't really a thing, I suppose. But it was always very confusing because people thought that we were wealthy because of the house that we lived in, but there were lots of things that didn't really match up. So I think I was a bit confused about money, and at times I think I felt more, I grew up in a posh part of London, but I didn't relate to anyone there. My neighbours, well, it wasn't a neighbourly neighbourhood. And then when I left home at 17, I moved to poorer parts of London, and was much happier sort of with, people talk to each other. Ever since then, I've always had neighbours that I chatted to, and I don't have the same mix up that I think I did then, but I felt like money was something almost that kept you from connecting with people, and that was something to maybe be a little bit ashamed of. I don't know if that resonates with some of you as well. But and my ex-husband used to tell me that, you know, he thought that I'd be happy if I lost everything and was ended up in a care state. And but there was a lot around that was a bit twisted as well, because he was good at spending money that he hadn't really earned, and I've been always very good at saving money because I didn't like borrowing it. So there are lots of things, and it's kind of good to sometimes look at your own, inside your own head, and see where your decisions come from, and how you think about money is influenced by maybe the way you grew up or your own experiences. And then I think to have a healthy money mindset, you have to feel like it's okay actually to have some money, and also think about why you want it. Money's not just something to be hoarded. It's something that I think is there to buy you things. It buys you time. It buys you, doesn't buy you happiness, but if you haven't got any money, life can be quite hard. I think some of my happiest times were some ways when I didn't, where, you know, there were difficult times when I didn't have much money, but you know, and it doesn't bring you happiness, but it you know, as you get older, I think it makes you feel a bit more secure, and it helps you to pay for things. It's helping me to help my children, to give them more choices and give them a good education, those sorts of things. So I'm glad now that I do have some money, and I'm pleased that I have some security as well. And I think this is what people are attracted to precious metals, is for a bit of security, but also people are starting to think for themselves. And I think most of you on this call are probably people who've started to think for yourselves rather than just trust other people to make decisions for you. So if anyone wants to talk about this, then I'd be interested to hear your input.
Sorry, this is Richard. I'm on the same page with you. I think, like you, I had kids very young, put myself through university, and kids were growing up. And probably, although now in later life I've got a bit more money, but actually the formative years when my kids were growing up, when we didn't really have anything, we were borrowing £20 and getting a takeaway was a luxury, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But in terms of family life and stuff, it was probably the best times, if you see what I mean. Obviously, time went on, started going on holidays and stuff, and I was joking with the wife and saying, actually, when we were dirt poor, actually, life was a little less complicated, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Slightly less stress. It's like having a pillow, but even if you fall from a very a great height, it's still going to hurt. You see what I mean? That's what kind of money is. It's a cushion, but it doesn't solve everything.
No, sometimes I think you're right. It brings new problems, because if you've got a bit of money, then you worry that you're not looking after it properly.
Yeah, you're completely right. But I think when your mind, like myself personally, I think I've probably got more involved, or my mind was in tune with precious metals probably the last 5 years, and it's probably more because I've been traveling more extensively and going to maybe places where other people maybe don't venture. So if I'm going into, I don't know, Morocco and in the souk, I'll be going around looking around at gold and stuff like that, or in Istanbul, Thailand, or wherever, or in the Amazon, I'm looking for raw gold or whatever. But it's just talking to people. I think it's only when you start going to other countries who are a lot more in tune with actual gold that you start to realise what's going on in the UK. We're not really switched on like that. It's like going to Hong Kong. If you ask an 80-year-old woman, what's the gold price today? She'll tell you. If you ask a 30-year-old, he'll tell you what the gold price is. If you probably ask a 15-year-old, he'll probably going to know what the gold price is today, if you know what I mean. They're a bit more in tune with day to day. What's the gold price? What's going on in the world? And how is that affecting the gold price?
Our culture here is very different. We're encouraged to listen to the expert and not to trust ourselves. So, and that's part of why we're here, is to support you, to trust yourself. And not everyone feels comfortable to share on a call like this. We're available in the office to have a chat with you if you want to talk about some of this stuff. We're sort of, we've got a bit of time sometimes for that. Not, I can't speak for hours and hours, but I think it's all part of, we don't sell anything. We facilitate you buying stuff if you want to. But
I was going to say that
we want you to make the right decision when you come to us. So we equip you with everything we can to help you to get there. So
no, I was going to say that I think, like, I've kind of done my own research anyway. I think everyone should do their own due diligence. But when I actually made the call to, I have purchased from you in the past, full disclaimer. But my first initial call from you, and which actually swayed me, funny enough, to actually purchase from you, because a lot of the other places I'd phoned around just to compare prices and get a kind of feeling in my mind if I felt comfortable parting with my money with these people, they were selling. They weren't listening to me as such. They were just selling. But when I called you, and I think I actually spoke to yourself, was my first phone call, actually was to yourself. I recognise your voice. But it was very much, you were just guiding me through the process, and you were exploring different avenues, but you weren't selling, you were just giving me information. And from that, I went away and then thought, okay. And then I came back to you with a few other questions, and then it kind of made my mind, and then I purchased. But you weren't in full sales mode with me. It was more, you were giving me the relevant information, if you know what I mean.
Thanks. Cool.
Apologies, I'm going to mute. I'll let other people talk, so I'm holding.
Does anyone else want to share anything about this before we move on? No, nobody brave. Okay, right, we'll carry on then. So how can we measure financial wealth? Well, this is kind of like, this picture that we see here. It's, you know, somebody who's accumulated various different things over the course of their life, not necessarily, you know, a younger person, but you know, we all start somewhere, and we might be working towards putting money into some of these things. So, for example, if you don't have money for a property, you might be wanting to earmark some funds, and you know, we do have people who buy gold often, just to tuck it away, and that's going to go towards a property deposit at some point in the future, that because they might not have enough, they might be quite young, and still saving, and that's something that they can do. So this is just a general picture. It's only one way that you might measure financial wealth. Another way of looking at it as from a health point of view, the health of your wealth is, and I think I'll go straight into the next slide really. It's about its relationship between earnings and spending and the money that you've got left over. So if you're if you want to gain more money to invest, then you've got to think about your earnings, and earnings can come from your investments or from work, or maybe you might write a book, and you might a lady who used to work for me, she had a YouTube channel, crocheting, Robin. Some of you might have spoken to Robin in the past, and she's incredibly successful now. I think she's got more than one YouTube channel, and she, while she was working for me as well, she started building it up, and then I gave her more time to develop that. And then she said one day, Caroline, I'm sorry, but I'm leaving because I'm going to be doing this full time, which is great, because I, you know, love to see people develop and thrive. She's got 500,000 followers now on YouTube. So she's earning far more than she was when she worked for me doing that. And so it's about, you know, if you've got a target, there are lots of different ways that you can make the money that you need. And another way of looking after that, and as when I was young, I was very careful with money. I had a little moped to get around, whereas my sister used to take taxis. And I thought I could do quite well if I was my sister's taxi. You know, she take her to work. So I think being smart with your spending really can make it. You don't have to earn so much. So it's about the balance, and getting it right. You know, you don't have to make it too hard, but the more you get used to spending, the harder you have to work to have money left over. I think it's pretty obvious in a way. Is if you think about the money that you might have saved up, how long would that last you if you lost an earning stream? So and that's something that I tend to bear in mind. And if you do like spending money, buy things that hold their value rather than things that depreciate. So that's another way of looking at it. And sometimes that they could even turn into investments. You know, I know I've got friends who like old cars and old motorbikes. They value and provide you with some joy at the same time. So, as long as you look after them properly. Right. many years ago, I went on a Tony Robbins wealth management course, and one of mine was the 3 buckets, because it's a very, very visual reminder. When they did it, they had the security bucket, and the risk growth bucket, and the hopes and dreams bucket was the bucket with the hole in it. So it's your spending bucket. So the security bucket, it's a little reminder of what they said goes in that. Cash, bonds, I'm not sure about bonds. I don't really know much about bonds. I think they're sort of fixed interest rate things. It's the bond market hasn't been doing too great in recent years. Perhaps someone out there knows a bit more about bonds, wants to share about that. Guaranteed annuities. So if that somebody wanted to explain that. No, oh, it might be just someone who's got some background noise. Okay, so cash bonds, your home, the house that you live in, your house is not an investment because it costs you money to live there. It doesn't put money into your pocket. It takes money out, so it's a little bit of a liability, but the actual equity in your house is an asset in your security bucket, and your pension. Any annuities, life insurance policies, that type of thing. Then your risk growth bucket is where your investments that you might move these around a bit more. So equities, stocks and shares, that type of thing. Yield bonds, investment properties. So it could be commercial, could be residential, but it's property that brings you in an income. Currencies, you might buy and sell different currencies, you might be a trader, that type of thing. Business investments, and commodities, of course, your gold, silver, platinum, palladium, all of that lives in your risk and growth bucket. And hopes and dreams, well, there's no point in having money if you don't have some fun. So, and I think sometimes setting those goals really helps to focus your mind on why you're doing it. We don't want to be having piles of wealth just to look at and see the numbers clocking up in the bank balance. It's important to have quality of life along with all of that, and for your family too. And at some point, it's also good not to worry too much about money. Do what you can. We can't escape risk. There's always going to be an element of risk. It's something we just have to accept. And I know it's difficult, but you just have to sometimes just say to yourself, well, I've done what I can. I've done the research. I've done this, I've done that. And then just allow some time for things to develop. If you're going to worry too much about things, it's just not worth it. It creates too much stress. I think sometimes just accept that your best is good enough. So balancing risk in your portfolio. So do your earnings from investment and employment provide enough income? If they don't, then you need to get creative about how you can change that. Sometimes you just need to ask for a pay rise, and or you need another income stream, or you need to have a look at your investments and switch things around a bit so that you've got something that brings in a yield. And don't be afraid to get rid of things that aren't doing anything. And how long could I survive if one of my income streams stopped? It's quite can be quite useful to have lots of different income streams. You know, so I've got some investments. I've got my income from the business. I've got some other bits and pieces that I do. You know, there are lots of options, and the more different ones that you have, that also reduces risk. The likelihood and impact of risk as well. So if you're looking at, you know, write down your, I sent out a handout to people, and I know that there were a lot of people that signed up late for this. So I'll send that out to everybody afterwards who didn't receive it already. But you can write down make a note of all of your investments, and or maybe income streams as well, and do a risk analysis of them. And this is going to change according to the economic environment. So, you know, when I did that wealth management course, we talked about the different types of, it was only really talking about stocks, but different businesses that do well in a recession, and those that do better at other times. So that's something to bear in mind too. Balancing risk in your portfolio. So there are risks associated with swapping. So I don't know if everyone's aware, but the capital gains tax allowances are changing from March. So if you've got something that you're thinking of selling that is that could be subject to capital gains tax, then it might be worth doing it before March, because the 12,000 allowance, I think it's 12,300, I'm not sure exactly, that's going down to 6,000. So next year it'll be halved, and then the year after it's going to halve again to 3,000. And you can British coins, if we go back to precious metals, it's something that is exempt from capital gains tax. So if you've got British coins, then you don't need to worry about capital gains tax. If you're thinking of buying gold and silver, then talk to us about British coins, Britannia's sovereigns, and we'll help you out as best we can. So tax implications. When I got divorced, I had to sell my palladium to pay off my husband's, which was I'm very sad about, because palladium's done very, very well since then. But I had to sell it all in one go. I wasn't able to manage that. So, you know, but if I'd have had coins, if I didn't know about coins when I first started, when I was first set up as a bullion dealer, and when I bought my first bullion. So if I'd have known that, then I would have had, you know, been able to possibly escape that. But as it happened, it's a lesson that I've had to learn myself. If you can sell stuff gradually, it used to be a bit of a help having that 12,000 allowance. Minimum terms, so depends on your investment. You might be tied in. Some of the bonds I mentioned earlier about bonds, you can buy into higher rate interest, which probably doesn't beat inflation, to be fair, and then you're tied in for a period of time, otherwise you lose that interest, or there's some sort of penalty. And then with certain investments like ISAs. There is a £20,000 limit on how much you can put in your ISA. So that's an ISA is a way that you can escape from capital gains tax and income tax in the future, but you can't buy precious metals in an ISA. But it just for completeness, I should mention it really. Opportunity loss, and that is you can only spend your money once at any one time. So, you might want to weigh up the potential of each, and the opportunity loss is the money that you didn't make doing something else. If you take your money out of fixed, one of these things where you get a penalty, you've lost that interest. So, and when this is again something that probably a lot of you are aware of, SMART goals. Make sure your goals are smart, realistic. I know the list of things that I intend to do in a day are often very unrealistic. But I think we all battle with this. But if something's important to you, it's worth really being thinking carefully about it. Enlist the help of other people. Get friends to hold you to account as well. I'm part of some groups that we help each other, and we talk about what we plan to do, and then we talk about how we did afterwards. That can be very powerful. So how can precious metal investments help you? Well, they're tangible. So we're not worrying about counterparty risk, which is something that, if you have your money in a company or in a bank, you're reliant on that organization staying solvent. Even if you have metals in storage with us, they don't belong to us, they belong to you. You just rent the storage space. So if something happened to our company or the storage company, you are not going to lose your metal because it doesn't form part of our assets. Someone couldn't take it away for that reason. It gives you some protection in that way. You've got the potential of tax-free metal purchases. Price manipulation. Well, every market can be manipulated. But in theory, perhaps the metal markets are a bit less manipulated. I'd say certainly, the platinum palladium is a lesser interest. It's probably less subject to price manipulation. General portfolio diversification. Gold tends to behave differently from, say, stocks. And there's a collectible aspect to some of the coins that we sell. So what to do next? The worksheet hopefully will help you to think, even if you don't fill it in, it's good to crystallize things perhaps sometimes in your mind, or help you focus on where you need to put your attention. If you need some help from us, then book a one-to-one with myself, or another member of my team can help. And you can have a look online. We've got on our news section, there are a number of articles. If you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get a reminder every time, a reminder of the articles that are up there, and notification of any special deals we've got. We're working on refining our the way that we get information to you, so we'll become a bit more sophisticated in the future, and you'll be able to opt for what types of emails you'd like to receive from us, what information is going to be most helpful. And then when we'd love to hear about anything else you'd like, from future webinars. And I think that's it. So I'm going to stop the share. So do you have any questions?
I put a few questions in the
Chat. Okay.
I
Let's have a look.
indeed.
Okay.
Hopefully it's beneficial for other people on the group and not just myself, but apologies to everyone if the subject matter I've put in there is not of interest to them.
That's all right. Okay, rhodium. The rhodium, right, rhodium, the spread on rhodium. Does everyone know what spread means?
Nope.
Right. It's the difference between the buy and the sell price. Okay. At any one time. So so for gold, it would be just a few pounds on the metal market, and then when you get into physical metals, that becomes a lot wider. But with rhodium, it's £1,000. Let's have a look on Kitco and see what it gives. So Kitco, and this is like one market, one exchange. So if you were, the bid price for gold is 154,812, and the ask price is 15. Well, it's just changed now. Sorry, it was 154,467 and 145,49. So it's about £1. When you get into the physical side of things, we would buy back at 98% for gold, generally 97, 98%. It depends very slightly on the market conditions and how much liquidity we have. And then when we're selling, the people we buy from will never buy at spot price because you're buying a physical product. So there's a percentage for it to be in physical gold, and then there's another percentage for it to be created into a bar or a coin. And then there are all the overheads associated with getting it to us, the insurance, the packaging, the postage, and then the middle people. And then we obviously have to charge something as well to cover our costs, our staffing, our postage, and everything you buy from us include the insured postage to your door is included in the price. There are no hidden fees. So gold is £1, the basic price. Silver is 1927 to 1935. So that's less than 10 pence difference. Platinum is 876 to 885. So you can see the spread is getting bigger. So it's only £10. Palladium, 1,395.87 and 1,519.25. So that's £100 spread, over £100, £120. And then rhodium, 9,048 is the bid price, and the ask price is 10,693. So that's over £1,600 spread. So it's quite big,
Wow.
isn't it? And
Yeah,
that's a paper spread. So
wow.
when you turn that into actual metal, the metal, what the buyback price for that's probably about 92% of the 9,000.
Mhm.
And then the selling price is going to be, you've got to add VAT on for all silver, platinum, palladium and rhodium, VAT on. So you've got add on 20%. And then you've got the fabrication cost, which is probably another 10%, maybe. So, you know, it becomes quite huge, doesn't it?
It's a good segue because I was going to ask. We're seeing quite drastic spread price. And for those who don't know spread price, so the buy price and sell price seems to vary quite considerably. Say, for instance, I've been looking to personally pick up, say, a American Buffalo, but from what I'm seeing, the buy price and sell price is just increased so much, and I've been scratching my head. What's going on? Why is this happening? Which is hence why it's kind of made me now kind of divert my attention maybe to maybe a platinum coin or a gold or a platinum bar. So I don't know. Is it market conditions? Is it rarity of it that's influenced that spread?
The prices that we charge are based on what things cost us to buy.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, Britannias, we sell a lot of Britannias. We've got a very we buy at very good prices on those, so we can sell them on at good prices. And if you sell back to us, we'll give you the best rates as well, because we know it's a product that we can just put out on the website and it will be sold.
And
Whereas there are other products you might sell us and we know that we're going to have it in our cupboard for a year before it goes. We know to bear that in mind when we buy it, and it will be reflected in the price.
And in terms of purchasing, and I think someone put in the messages, so hopefully I'm assisting someone else in terms of purchasing a gold bar as opposed to a coin. What would you say for investment purposes would be more advantageous to the end users, end purchasers, sorry, in terms of the bar as opposed to the coin in regards to gold or silver?
Yeah, if you're going to be, if you're worried about capital gains tax, then the British coins are going to be your best bet, because they are they don't even come into the equation, the capital gains tax equation. They can be ignored.
Is that the same with the bar as well?
No,
we're not with bars. Oh, that's interesting.
there's no VAT on gold, but capital gains tax is a different tax.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so people get a bit confused sometimes over the capital gains tax and the VAT thing. They go, and then they also get confused. Why is there VAT on a silver coin,
Right.
which is legal tender? Because that doesn't make sense either.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, tax doesn't make sense. Essentially, it's slavery, and it depends on which what school of thought and which, you know, where your mind is, where you're headed, how you think about these things. Capital gains tax is something that you put on your tax, your declaration. But I don't know that it's something they can discover without you actually disclosing that. So it's up to you to be honest about it, taxman. Right, I'm just having a read through. Or have there been such drastic changes in CBT policy? I think they're trying to just tax us as much as possible. And I think that there's a lot of pressure on the government to be seen to be taxing the wealthier. And, I think they can maybe channel people more towards things like ISAs and structured investments. With this, they'll always make loopholes for themselves, but we have got an article about that. Tom's pointed out.
Have you seen an increase in? Hopefully, I'm not jumping the gun and everything, but like I said, I've been getting a bit more in tuned into what's going on with the gold markets and around the world. And obviously, there was discussion because of what's going on in the world and the economic climate, say with Russia trying to set a new, I suppose, almost a gold standard, almost where they're exchanging oil for essentially gold. So have you seen a increase in sales off the back of that, or do you think it's something that will slowly fizzle out, if you see what I mean? Or do you think China and Russia are now grouping together to actually set a new gold standard and move away from the US dollar, if you see what I mean?
I think there's been buy-up of gold by central banks all around the world. It's kept quiet. They'll be with the very two-faced and tell you on one side about not buying gold, and at the same time they're buying it themselves. So, I am not really the right person to comment on this stuff. I don't read broadly as much as perhaps I ought to, but I'd much rather be out in the garden or walking the dog, to be perfectly honest.
No, agreed.
So
I was in Istanbul.
I listen to people. I'm aware of of course, of the Russia thing, and that they would didn't want to accept US dollars. I think that there's a few countries ganging up against the US dollar, so trying to have a shift of power.
I was in Istanbul probably about 4 weeks ago, and I go there quite often, but it was very notable the amount of Russians out there exchanging gold for currency or selling or buying more gold. I was kind of taken aback, and I've got a friend out there who's in a gold shop in Istanbul, but even he was saying, he's just amazed about the amount of Russians now. Gold seems to be the number one commodities. They're not bringing cash; they're bringing either gold to either exchange for euros or whatever. But they're obviously that seems to be their main focus now is gold. They've seen an upsurge. I was just inquiring and saying, "Oh, what's going on with gold market?" And then he goes, "They've never seen. It's never been busier."
Yeah. I guess in fact I was talking to a Turkish company, Turkish bullion dealer, bullion refinery, actually, about stocking their bars. So it's something that I'm considering. Inheritance tax. Janet, I was asked about inheritance tax. I think inheritance tax is something, again, the thing about physical metal is it's portable.
Does it need to be declared when you actually leave the like with a certain amount of cash when you leave the country? You need to declare it, I think, when you leave and when you arrive. Would the same apply to gold?
If you're going across the border and there are limits on how much you can carry without declaring it, doesn't mean you're going to be taxed on it, though.
Right. Okay.
But if you don't declare it, then you run the risk of it being confiscated if they find it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So
Right.
if you're crossing a border, I would make inquiries before traveling and try and find out what the score is.
Right. Okay.
You know, and possibly coins might be easier to move. So just a thought. But
Yeah. No, yes. That's true. Okay.
yeah, inheritance
Excuse
tax.
me, do you know what the limit is, Caroline?
For what?
Do you know what the limit is? If
How
you're
much?
taking coins through customs, do you know if there's what the limit is or not?
I don't know, but I'm sure we can look it up quite easily. I would say something like 10 or 15,000 euros.
Right.
I remember because I went over to Guernsey because we have a store there, and picked some stuff up from there and brought it back. And I did just this because I didn't want to be going through airport security and be asked to empty my bag out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So I spoke
Yeah.
to them before, and you know, it's just said, you know, I'm going to be bringing some gold through, but you know, can we discuss this privately, please?
Of course. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
fine. It was absolutely fine. I had no problems.
And do you guys purchase gold, say, that doesn't have your traditional hallmark, say like Thai gold, this is baht. You know, they do a Thai baht, like a gold bar, which is in a baht, which is
Okay.
slightly different. So you guys would purchase as well. Would you purchase that as well? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we will buy most things, you know, we'll
Right.
buy it for the gold content. We'll tend probably, if it's something unusual, it's going to take a while to move it. We might have to sell it back. So we might have to sell it for scrap. So that might go, you know, that will be taken into account in the price.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or we've got to, you know, sometimes people sell us very tiny pieces of gold and we've got to do a listing for it if we want to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it gets priced in. You know, we don't like to turn anyone away if you've got something you'd like to move on. There are coin bars. The thing about legal currency, though, for people thinking, oh well, if I just to avoid confusion, the capital gains tax thing is for the country that you're in. So if you're in America, it would be an American Eagle. If you're in the UK, it's a Britannia, it's a sovereign, or it could be a commemorative coin. It could be a Queen's Beast. If it says, you know, it's legal tender and it's got like it's worth this many pounds, then it's legal tender. And some of these come in the shapes of bars as well as coins. So you get coin bars. We've had the Perth Mint ones, and what else? Other ones. Can't remember now offhand. There's a few others. Yeah. So
I'm going to ask a very quick question and then I'm going to go on mute and allow other people to put through their questions and filter through stuff to you. So my apologies again to everyone. There was debate whether or not the Britannias, the 2022 Britannia had the Queen's effigy on the actual coin. Now, there was a debate when we went into 2023. The 2023 coins, Britannias, also have the Queen's effigy on it. But then there was this discussion about whether or not it was suddenly going to change to King Charles's effigy on it. So we were going to end up in this quandrum where there was going to be, which has never happened before, potentially a sovereign coin having two monarchs
yes,
on the coins. Has that issue now been resolved as to whether or not they're going to have a King Charles?
yes, it has.
Oh, it has. Okay, excellent.
and we're going to be the design is embargoed until the 17th of this month, so next week.
Right.
All will be revealed.
Right. Okay. Because I've got a 2020. I was debating whether or not to buy 2023 to get the Queen's effigy on the actual coin, and then I was banking or hoping that they made a decision and then they put a King Charles on. So I thought maybe that would make the actual coin slightly more rarer, because it's never happened before where you have two monarchs in a year.
So there will be, as a result of this, there will be less Elizabeth produced and probably less Charles produced because it's split.
Right. Okay, that's interesting.
We have got supply both at the moment. Not both, but we've got supplies of both silver and gold with Queen Elizabeth on. So, you can.
I'll be contacting you about that, but I'm going to go on mute.
We've got, I think we've the next lot that we've got coming through will have Charles on. So
Oh, wow.
we won't. I don't know if we'll get any more gold Britannias with Elizabeth on. Depends on the stocks of our suppliers.
And that'll be pre-order for if Charles ends up on the coin, it'll be a pre-order allocation, I assume.
Yeah, we'll be opening that on the 17th.
Excellent.
So you can get your orders in, and we have a new supplier that is hopefully they'll be able to get stock to us much sooner than we have done before. So we're working on being first in the queue. So sometimes we're a bit slow at getting product out to people, but we haven't really let anyone down yet. So thank you for everyone for their patience and loyalty on that score. So what else am I missing? Opinion on current, future gold and silver supplies. I think supplies are going to continue. I haven't, but we've got an article on our website that Tom put together about silver. There may be silver shortages because the silver surpluses have been going down. Silver inventories are going down, and there have been instances where they haven't been able to fulfill them. In terms of precious metal refiners, we haven't seen, it's been more that there's been other supply issues in terms of getting things through the pipeline. Not enough people to make the stuff sometimes, or the demand has just been too great at any one time. We've had load of orders will come all at once for silver bars, coins, or gold, and then people are wondering why they can't have it straight away. Well, it's just because there are suddenly, the supply of physical items is not as elastic as people think it might be. So it's just practical problems. But we have seen the premiums increase, and sometimes it's for short periods of time. We've just reduced our Silver Britannia premium by £2, which is quite a lot on a 1 ounce coin. And that was, we had to increase it because our suppliers were, they had a shortage of supply, so they were charging us as much as they could, and we have to pass that on. So thankfully that's back down again, and I'm hoping we won't have that for a while. If the demand is steady and we don't have these huge spikes, this doesn't happen so much. In terms of, that we are silver supply, though, could be affected by, China productivity has been down because of all the COVID lockdowns and things, but things are getting back to normal. So commodities, not just silver, could start to go up in price and be more restricted as that those factories come back online. you know, to full capacity. So in terms of prices, I don't know how many of you look at charts, but I've been looking at the gold chart, and UK chart looks a bit different from the US gold chart. But on the UK chart, I'm seeing an ascending triangle, which is, if I share, if I can share my screen, I'll just, hang on, I'll just find it first. Unfortunately, we don't have good charts to share with you on our website. Okay, can you see the chart on the screen? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it fine.
Okay, so I'm going to go into a 5-year chart. So you can see at this, at the level we're at now, just above. I mean, we hit 1550, 1555 or something earlier. Let's just have a look at today. Today we got up to 1555 an ounce. And if we look at the 20-year chart or 5-year chart, you know, we've kind of like that. There's 3 hits around that level, nearly 1560, 1550.
It'd be interesting to correlate. It'd be interesting to correlate that to the decline of crypto to see if the decline in crypto, the hits they've taken, have moved across those prospective investors over into gold.
I don't know.
I'd love to see a chart like that. That'd be amazing to see what's actually happened in the markets.
But if you see, look at the support line along here, along the bottom, right? So, I mean, this is indicating to me that if it breaks out, and it's trying to break out from this point here, then it could quite easily, we could quite easily have quite a big run, you know, and you know, I don't like to make predictions, but you know, that's £500 perhaps there, maybe more. I don't know over what period of time. So yeah, it's interesting, but I think the chances of the prices going up are greater than the prices going down, and that's as close as you'll get to a prediction from me. But silver, we tend to see a lot more volatility in the silver price generally. So when gold moves, silver will move. Just a minute. If you bear with me a minute, that's all right. Finish now. My son was trying to reach me. I'll just tell him to call him later. The price is at 1926. It's been up to £20 in the last week. But it's a lot more all over the place, really. It's interesting where it might go. You know, people generally feel it's underpriced, it's undervalued, and it's got a long way to go. And I would tend to agree with that, but I don't know when. And I think silver it's good to have a little bit of silver. It's good to have a bit of gold. I'm more a fan of diversification generally. I wouldn't hang my hat on any one thing, and with a certainty that it's definitely going to go up. I think that's, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, really, to do that. It's useful to look at the different currencies. I like to look at what's going on in the dollar as well, because sometimes you get a very different picture. So look at gold. you haven't got that same shape. If the shape was the ascending triangle was there for gold, I'd be a bit more bullish about it. But maybe if it breaks through this mark as well, the 2,000, over $2,000, that would be another strong sign. So if you're going through both charts, okay, enough of that. But what else have we got in the chat? Okay, yeah, we've got lots of Silver Britannias. Yeah.
Caroline.
Yes.
Hi, Caroline. Could you tell me a bit about how bullion dealers like yourself actually record the transactions when we buy gold coins and bars off you? You have to actually record them. And does it go to the government, or does it go on a record, or how does that exactly work?
It just stays on our website. On our we keep records securely. We don't share any individual's data with anyone. We do our annual tax returns, and there's nothing gets sent out with those. So it's just about how much, what our expenses and our profits are. That's all that gets reported. We don't share any personal details with anybody, no agency whatsoever.
Are we obliged to actually declare to custom and excise if we spend more than 5,000 on gold ourselves?
No.
Yeah.
That I know what you're talking about. There is, if you look up the VAT, there is something about that, and I've contacted them, and they have never been very helpful. They don't seem to understand it. I think it's like if you're a bullion dealer and you are intending to make supplies of precious metals over that amount of money, that you need to declare it. Well, they know that that's what we do. I don't think it applies to individuals.
So we can buy as much gold as we can afford, and we don't have to actually tell anyone that we've actually bought it then?
Yes. And if you bought something, nobody would even know if you still have it as well.
No, this is it. Because obviously back in America, they actually confiscated it, didn't they? I can't remember the date now. Do you think that could happen in the UK? They could try and take gold off us or not?
Well,
with all the things that are happening with the COVID and one thing and another.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to say anything. I think that they're capable of all sorts of things. But in America, what happened, they were trying to control the money supply. Gold was linked to money, and now it's not. So the reasons behind that don't exist at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, there is the CBDC are trying to accumulate money, accumulate gold. So there could well be a gold back currency in the future. How that would actually work in practice, I really don't know.
Okay.
Wrap things up now because it's getting late. We've been talking for nearly 2 hours. So.
Oh, wow.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
interesting.
I have to go get my dogs.
Thank you then, Caroline.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Caroline. Caroline,
you.
can I just ask one quick question? I'm on your website at the moment.
Yes.
See the coupon codes, where do you get those from?
We run special offers occasionally, or if we need to give someone a credit, we use it for that. So we might send you out a little something for people who've come on the call tonight. But we do things from time to time.
All right, okay. No, I was actually going to buy or purchase a couple of your coins at the moment. I just thought I would make use of it if possible.
Okay, no, there aren't any codes at the moment.
All right, okay.
All right.
Right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Lovely to speak to you, Jimmy. Bye.
Caroline, in your company is offer, for example, the digitalized gold or silver, or that doesn't yet?
A digital what?
Can I hold online gold
No.
in your company, or eventually, or just physical and that's it?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, we can.
Have been a long time ago, so I'm not follow now, but
Yeah,
I'm
no,
doing the
that's okay.
occasion.
You can buy in storage. So the
Storage, yes, you're right.
you can have storage of physical, and sometimes that's useful if you're buying metals that attract VAT. If it's in the store, it's in the offshore storage, then there's no VAT. So you can buy it, and as long as you don't take possession, you don't pay the VAT.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
But it is physical, and they are physical bars. It's not, we could do electronic, we're not really geared up for it. If I was doing that, I'd want to be able to offer very tight margins on it. You know, I haven't got the technology to do that well. So I'm not going to do it.
It's okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Has anyone else got anything burning before I sign off? Okay. All right. I'm going to close the chat now. Thank you. Good night, everyone.